What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Two quick things before getting started. First, I have two giveaway winners to announce at the end of this video, so stick around for that. And second, I need to send out a huge thank you to Stuart McGahee for joining our Patreon at the Jedi Master level this past week. That's so generous, so thank you, Stuart. And thank you to all of our patrons. We have been growing so fast there. We just crossed the threshold for doing an audio commentary on Return of the Jedi, and we still have to do one for Empire. We're doing our best to keep up with it all, but thank you all for your patience there. Our first question this week comes from Emil Solvang, who asks if the Slave One can be seen in one of the recent TV spots that was released for Solo this past week. People have been asking me about this all week, and I will totally admit that in this one frame, it does look like that's the Slave One back there. It kind of has the same shape, but if you go through the shot frame by frame, I think it's just a rock. I mean, I'm not saying that Boba Fett or his ship won't be in Solo, but I don't think that this shot is any proof of that. To me, I just see a rock. I mean, hopefully that doesn't burst anyone's bubble. I'm still saying that a cameo or some sort of appearance is possible, but that's just not what I'm seeing here. Daniel Bowen wants to know if Anakin's frustration with the Jedi Council in Revenge of the Sith is partly due to their part in Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order during the Clone Wars. 100% I think that. Now, of course, the movie came before the series, so when they were doing the movie, I think all of his frustration was just coming from that one whole scene where they grant him a seat on the council, but don't grant him the rank of master. Like, I do think that's enough, but when they were developing the Clone Wars series, I think one of their big goals was to further justify Anakin's frustration and further kind of show the problems within the Jedi Order, and I do think that they succeeded in that endeavor. Jeremy Shook asks if Luke can still feel pain in his mechanical hand even though he lost the synthetic skin. That's an interesting question, and I'm going to guess that yes, he can, because in Return of the Jedi, we see Vader get his mechanical hand cut off. As far as we know, he didn't have any synthetic skin, but he still screamed in pain. So I would guess that the functions involving registering pain from the hand to the brain, I think that's all mechanical, and the synthetic skin was probably just cosmetic, but I don't know for sure. It was an interesting thought. Walking by 87 wants to know when Kylo Ren decided to kill Snoke. Was it predetermined and planned out, or was it all a spontaneous thing? I think you can actually see him make the decision in the movie. In the throne room, when Snoke announces that it was he who bridged his mind with Rey's, he does this little look, and I think that's him going, okay, that's the last straw. He didn't appreciate that manipulation. He does have feelings for Rey because of it, and I think that when he was bringing Rey in, the vision of the future that he saw was he and Rey together. So knowing that that was all just a lie, I think set him off, and I think he decided to kill Snoke then and there. Steel J Bane 22 asks if I would prefer to stay a fan of Star Wars or if I would ever want to play a part in the creation of it. Honestly, I have no idea what I would do. I mean, of course, that would be an incredible honor if by some miracle Lucasfilm reached out to me. I don't personally think I have the credentials to work at Lucasfilm. I mean, knowing a lot about Star Wars, I don't think is a prerequisite at Lucasfilm, although I'm sure it doesn't hurt. But yeah, I don't know, because I do just love enjoying this stuff from the fan side and just experiencing these stories. I mean, you know that I don't like talking about leaks or spoilers or anything like that. I want to go into a movie mostly fresh. I don't mind watching the trailers or the TV spots. Anything that is marketing, I consider to be non-spoilery. But yeah, like Simon Pegg is, of course, a huge Star Wars fan, and he said after working on The Force Awakens, like he kind of helped with the script and stuff, and of course he's Unkar Plutt, and then he saw the film, and he said he was kind of like a little bit like, I can't enjoy this fully as a fan, and I think that part of me would definitely miss that. And I just don't know what I would do. That would definitely be a consideration that I have, but also, I don't even know if I could write a Star Wars story, you know? I don't think I would trust myself to do that. I'm just a guy that knows about Star Wars and knows a lot about it, so I don't know that I would even consider myself worthy of that honor, but It's a fun question to think about and, daydream about, but I don't know. To answer your question, I have no idea. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content like the audio commentaries I mentioned before, or roles in my Discord server, and the combined donations really go a long way in supporting the channel. On to YouTube questions. Marcos Bravo asks if the First Order had any Imperial-class Star Destroyers. I don't think we were shown any on screen at any point, but it wouldn't really surprise me if they still had some floating around in the unknown region somewhere. I mean, they still were using updated designs of AT-ATs and AT-STs, so it's not like they had completely abandoned that stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they still had some of that older tech, and I bet the Super Star Destroyer Eclipse is still out there as part of their fleet somewhere. Unless it was destroyed, we don't know yet. I still hope that comes up in a book at some point. It was teased in Aftermath Empire's End. So I do think it'll happen, and maybe at some point during those 30 years it was just blown up. Maybe it was part of Snoke's takeover of the First Order. I don't know. But to answer your question, yeah, I think it's totally plausible. John Barry wants to know if I think the Battlefront II story campaign would have been better received if it were marketed differently. I do think that. I actually enjoyed the story of Battlefront 2. I think that it was one worth telling. It's an interesting thought to go, okay, so the Emperor has this Operation Cinder thing. What would a very devoted Imperial think of that if all of a sudden the Empire kind of turned on itself? How would someone handle that? And that is an interesting concept. But the problem is when it was marketed, like that very first trailer, you hear Iden's voiceover and it's over Starkiller Base, and it's like they're definitely leading us to believe she was part of the Empire from Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens, and that it was definitely going to bridge that gap. So yeah, the marketing, I think, led us to believe the story was going to be one thing when it was never going to be that. And yeah, I mean, we were all expecting an Imperial story when I don't think that's exactly the case. And again, I thought that the story was a good one to tell, and I thought it was told well. I just think that they should have marketed it differently so that our expectations were set more in line with what it was actually going to be. Along those same lines, Stir asks what I would think of an Inferno Squad comic series. I think that would be really cool because, again, we would actually get to see Inferno Squad acting as part of the Empire. What I think would be interesting is if we followed Gideon Hask, the guy that actually did stay with the Empire, so we could follow him from shortly after the Battle of Endor all the way to the Battle of Starkiller Base, and at the same time maybe he could have flashbacks to quote-unquote better days where he had his entire family of Inferno Squad and they were going on missions, so we'd kind of get both stories at the same time. I think that could be a really cool way to tell that story. Carbonite Hunter wants to know if there's still a chance that we could see Lando in Episode 9. Of course, there is still a chance, and I really do hope that happens. But from what I've read or heard, I don't think Billy D. Williams would be up for a major role for health reasons more than anything, but a cameo I still think would be very possible. And I still wish that it were Lando instead of Maz in The Last Jedi, because him knowing the Master Codebreaker makes sense to me, but more importantly, Lando is a gambler. So him telling them all to go to the casino city of Canto Bight, I think that would have been a nice touch. Paul King asks who my favorite Imperial officer is, since I'm a Rebel fanboy. And I'm going to go with Captain Needa, because the Empire and the Imperial officers, they're always shown as being super willing to just step on each other, do whatever they can to get ahead and stay on top. But Captain Needa doesn't do that. When he loses the Millennium Falcon, he immediately takes full responsibility. I mean, he probably could have passed the buck off to some sensor tech and be like, you go tell Darth Vader what just happened and why we lost the Falcon. But he didn't do that. He was like, I take responsibility. I'm going to go apologize to Darth Vader. And he probably knew that was a one-way trip. So I kind of feel like Captain Needa was one of the earliest examples of an Imperial who wasn't a bad guy. He was just kind of a guy that was in over his head and thrust into a bad situation. That's all the time I have for questions today. If you have a question for next week's video, just leave it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. Now, on to the giveaways. I have 2 winners to announce. First, the winner of the 2 LEGO sets in The Last Jedi Blu-ray is Tim Coughlin, and the winner of Last Shot, the new Han Solo and Lando book that came out this past week, is David Torrey. So congratulations, guys. I already emailed you to get your shipping info, and I'll get that stuff sent out to you as soon as possible. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.